Let's talk about why Pakistan's Air Force beating India is basically inevitable at this point. According to foreign media, on April 29th, for Indian Air Force Rafale fighters armed with European Meteor missiles approached the Kashmir border, apparently looking to provoke Pakistan and get some payback for earlier shooting incidents inside their territory. But man, Pakistan's response was lightning fast. Their J-10C fighters, which had never before appeared in India-Pakistan conflicts, were airborne within minutes. And get this, these weren't just any J-10s. They were carrying the PL, 15 long-range air-to-air missiles they recently got from China. Now, India went into this feeling pretty confident. After all, they paid a whopping $240 million each for those Rafales from France. That's fifth-generation fighter price for what's really a fourth-gen aircraft. Talk about buyer's remorse, right? But here's where things got interesting. When the aircraft closed to about 80 kilometers, the Rafale's radar warning receivers suddenly went crazy. This caught the Indians completely off guard. I mean, the French marketing had been hyping up the Rafale's RBE-2A radar, claiming it could detect targets from 200 kilometers away. Yet here they were, being locked onto before they could even spot the Pakistani J-10s. You can imagine the panic setting in. According to media reports, when the distance narrowed to 37 kilometers, the Indian Rafale formation circled for 25 minutes, realized they were completely outmatched, and then hastily retreated back to base. This brief standoff created quite a stir in international media. Pakistani official outlets proudly broadcast the encounter, while India, strangely enough, didn't offer any clarification. Instead, they suddenly fired Air Vice Marshal Sultandeep Kamaljun, the Rafale fleet commander who'd been in position for just 7 months. Now that's telling, isn't it? This response is totally out of character for the Indian Air Force. Remember back in 2019, when their MiG-21 pilot Abhinandan was shot down by Pakistani F-16s and captured after ejecting. Even then, India fabricated a story claiming they'd downed a Pakistani F-16. But this time, complete silence. That pretty much confirms what Pakistani media is saying. So here's the million-dollar question. What's making the Indian Air Force so consistently underwhelming against Pakistan? Why do they keep getting outplayed? First off, India's Air Force has zero systems thinking in their procurement strategy. You know what they say, the only lesson India learns from history is that they never learn from lessons. Since India's independence, they've always been willing to splash cash on equipment. In 1948, they bought Vampire jets from Britain, becoming the first Asian nation with jet fighters. By 1960, they'd added Hunter fighters and Canberra bombers from Britain, plus Mystère and Aurigane fighters from France. Basically, from day one, India went with the buy from everyone approach. But then came September 1965 and the Second Indo-Pakistani War. Pakistan's Air Force, with just 32 American-imported F-80 SIXS and 8 F-104 fighters, absolutely dominated Indian airspace. Get this, on September 6th alone, they shot down 10 Indian aircraft in just 3 days. Within 2 days, they'd seized control of the entire battlefield airspace. India's massive armored ground forces suddenly lost their advantage and were sitting ducks for Pakistani air attacks. Post-war analysis revealed several reasons why Pakistan managed to win despite being outnumbered. First, legendary Air Force Commander Nur Khan had built a team of elite pilots. They were fewer in number, but incredibly skilled and fearless. Second, Pakistan pioneered air-to-air missile combat, using American-supplied GR-8 Sidewinder missiles to create a huge advantage. Meanwhile, India was still obsessed with dogfighting using aircraft cannons. Most importantly, Pakistan had systems thinking. As early as 1965, they deployed advanced early warning radars and coordinated anti-aircraft guns at frontline Murid Air Base, creating a comprehensive ground-to-air detection and strike network. Fast forward 60 years to today, and India hasn't just failed to fix these problems, they've actually made them worse. The Indian Air Force still uses the same outdated thinking, lacks systems integration, and believes buying Rafales makes them invincible. Sure, many analysts point to the J-10C's radar suppressing the Rafale's capabilities, and that's part of it. But the real key is that Pakistan has the J-10C ZDK-03 early warning aircraft plus ground-based DWL-002 passive electronic detection systems, all working together as an integrated combat system. That's what gives them such powerful response capabilities. You might ask, doesn't India have Israeli Falcon AWACS, Russian A-50 AWACS, and Samyukta electronic warfare systems? Why can't they form their own integrated system against Pakistan? Well, that brings us to the next problem. Why India's multinational equipment can't form an effective combat system. Unlike ground or naval forces, air forces require highly complex system integration. Just buying advanced fighters doesn't cut it. Having equipment and turning it into effective combat power are completely different things. Sure, India has advanced Su, 30 MKIs from Russia and Rafales from France, but neither country has shared their core source codes with India. Currently, the Indian Air Force still relies on a system built around Russian IL-76 AWACS and Su-30s, with no evidence they've solved the communication issues between Russian data links and other systems. Their early warning aircraft literally can't transmit detection data to Rafale fighters in real time. They're basically shouting information by voice. So much for combat efficiency. Reports say India has repeatedly asked Dassault for the Rafale source code, but they've been flatly refused. Even the source code for Mirage 2000 fighters purchased 4 years ago still hasn't been provided. India wants to integrate their Russian and European weapons? Not happening. Want to upgrade electronic warfare pods? Sure, if you've got money to burn. Probably more than buying new fighters would cost. Of course, nobody easily hands over source code. For 4th-gen fighters and beyond, software development costs exceed hardware costs. Take the F-22. Just the software writing took over 8 years. These aren't just planes anymore. They're flying computers. 8 countries participated in F-35 development, but only Lockheed Martin in America has the complete source code. So why would Dassault give their code to India? If they did, how else would they keep milking India for money? You want to mount a new missile? Pay up. That's called a monopoly, and there's nothing more profitable. Military procurement gets into even deeper issues. You might think India just loves buying from everyone and throwing money around, but honestly, they have no choice. People talk about Japanese craftsmanship and focus, but you don't understand India. Their homegrown LCA Tejas fighter was launched in 1983. American engines, Israeli radar, French aerodynamics, all the world's most advanced components. Yet India's development process stretched across 42 years. A single Tejas witnessed China's evolution from the J-8 3rd-gen fighter all the way to the J-36 6th-gen. Even today, the Indian Air Force doesn't trust the Tejas' performance. Their indigenously developed ALH helicopters are no better. 300-plus helicopters deployed over 25 years have suffered 28 crashes in a single year. They've been grounded for at least 6 months since January, forcing the military to rent civilian helicopters to fill the gap. As I mentioned in my previous video, India's deeper problems lie in their bloated, inefficient, corrupt bureaucracy and their bizarre caste system. According to last year's reports in the Indian Express, even their new chief of staff Singh publicly complained that India's industrial capabilities urgently need improvement. India may have 1.4 billion people, but thanks to the caste system, more than half, about 560 million people, are effectively marginalized. Since 1962, when Nehru's land reforms failed, 60% of land remained in the hands of just 1% of landowners. Manufacturing needs both land and concentrated talent, and India has neither. While India boasts about their Indian Institutes of Technology being harder to get into than MIT, their best graduates dream of becoming IT executives in Western countries. India leads the world in brain drain. Additionally, corruption runs rampant throughout India's government. During negotiations with Dassault, Indian representatives actually raised the price. A single Rafale went from $100 million to $240 million. For perspective, even an F-35 only costs about $200 million. In 2021, the French government itself revealed that Dassault had paid 1.1 million euros in bribes to companies connected to Modi's relatives. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's the 1989 Swedish Bofors artillery case, German Type 209 submarine deal, Su-30 fighter case, French Scorpion submarine scandal, procurement deals ranging from millions to single bribes of $100 million. Every purchase involves corruption, with everyone taking their cut. They even skim from soldiers' food allowances. As they say, the front line is hungry while the rear echelon feasts. This leads to low morale across Air Force Command, pilots, ground crew, and maintenance staff. Nobody's heart is in the fight. Without effective maintenance, frontline aircraft deteriorate. Over the past 40 years, the Indian Air Force has set a world record with 1,000 aircraft accidents. Finally, we're all overlooking one fact. Pakistan, which repeatedly clashes with India, is actually extremely poor. Pakistan has plenty of internal problems too. Their military controls 12% of the country's capital. They have massive wealth inequality, and their illiteracy rates rival India's. In 2023, Pakistan's per capita GDP was just $1,598, less than one-fifth of Mongolia's. They're several times poorer than Mongolia. But you've got to admire Pakistan's strategic vision. It's about making smart choices rather than just working hard. They understand that clinging to China's leg is their ticket to survival. What has China brought Pakistan? High-end fighter technology transfers. Pakistan can now independently produce JF-17 fighters and has a complete fighter parts supply system. They might even acquire J-35s in the future, giving them asymmetric air superiority in the region. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has created over 70,000 jobs and boosted Pakistan's GDP growth by 2 percentage points. So to conclude, the Indian Air Force's various problems reflect India's deep-rooted development issues and their strategic miscalculations in opposing China. Solving these problems quickly is pure fantasy. That's why the Indian Air Force being dominated by the much smaller Pakistani Air Force is simply inevitable.